Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Off Axis Podcast, where we talk entertainment, acrobatics, business, entrepreneurship, fitness, and more. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you guys want to support, please share with your friends. Now, let's jump into the podcast. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another podcast. Today we have a special guest, Scott Mcdonald. Scott, how you doing today?
Good. How you doing?
Very good, Scott. I've been looking forward to this podcast for a while. We scheduled it like a month ago.
Yeah.
Do you always schedule things that far ahead?
I try to. I've got too many things going on simultaneously.
Yeah?
So, yeah.
I usually don't know what I'm doing past a week unless
God,
it's like
I
a show
wish.
or something. Are you pretty good with like your Google documents and the calendar and everything?
Yeah, I use the calendar app, and I just have a big to-do list.
You seem like you would be very, very scheduled and like organized.
I have to be.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I remember, I haven't talked to you in a while. We would hang out quite a bit when I first moved to Vegas, when Gym Cats was a thing.
Yeah.
And I don't really train anymore, so I guess I don't really see Scott McDonald anymore. So what have you been up to for the last 5 years?
Oh boy. Last 5 years. Well, actually,
wait, let's go back.
yeah.
What did you do before acrobatics, or like what was life growing up?
Also a good one. Okay. I was born in Vancouver, Canada. My parents are Scottish, so I spent quite a bit of time in the UK as well. Did it die?
It's recording.
Okay.
No.
I
The
lived
red
in
dots on
Norway
the
for a
wall.
bit. But yeah, I grew up as a martial artist, and from that I got into tricking in about 2000, 2001. And I was really bad at tricking, so I plateaued really quickly and early around like 2004, 2005. And from there, just started trying every acrobatic discipline I could get my hands on, because trying the same thing but sucking at it is very demoralizing. But trying new things meant that I was constantly feeling some kind of sense of growth or progress.
Yeah.
But yeah. And then I guess for the last 5 years, we're in 2024 right now. At the very end of 2019, I joined Run, the stunt-based Cirque show that was at Luxor, the one that replaced Chris Angel, which I had been in the same theater prior to that. And in my first ever on-stage rehearsal, I managed to fully sever 2 of the ligaments in my left ankle doing a jump full turn.
Oh my God. Wait,
Yeah.
so the show didn't start yet?
No, well, the show had started, but I wasn't in it yet. I wasn't part of the creation team. I came in after the fact.
Wasn't that show only on for like a couple months?
Yeah. Yes, it was. And I was in a total of 0 of those shows.
And did you quit a job to get into that one?
No, I had left Mind Freak, but that was just a budget cut thing. It wasn't really any negative split on either of our parts. I was still on call there, but not full time. And then when Run appeared, I was like, oh, this looks like fun to do. So auditioned, got in, promptly broke my ankle, and then I had surgery the day that all the shows closed for COVID. So then there was no Cirque Du Soleil to handle my rehab. I was sent to an outpatient clinic, and it was just a very slow process to get back to full. So as soon as that was done, which was 14 months of rehab time, shows reopened, and I went back to Chris Angel, and yeah.
You're still back in Chris Angel, yeah?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
How do you like that show?
Oh, I love it. It's, for me, as someone who does not care about being on stage, like, there's no performer bone in my body, really. I just like to train and learn new things. So for context, every Cirque du Soleil show or Spiegelworld show in Vegas does about 477 shows annually, plus rehearsals. And those rehearsals are constant, at least for Cirque. It's not like we need to do this because there's a big issue. It's just we need to do this. With Chris, we do under 270, so less than, or 200 plus shows less every year. And my position is salaried, so instead of being paid per show, I just get paid. And it basically amounts to months of vacation every year, which gives me the time to go and do whatever I want with training. And the show itself is very easy for me, so yeah, it's just kind of like show up at 6 o'clock, hang out with my friends for an hour and a half, go home.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I saw that show a while ago. You gave me tickets to it. It was probably like 5 years ago. But I actually really liked that show.
It's fun.
Yeah, it's a really good show. I am not too big of a fan of a lot of the Cirque shows. I like the Beatles show, and I like Mystere. I don't really like the other ones, really. What would you say is your favorite show to watch? Love?
Yeah, I'm biased. I was in it, but it was my favorite show prior to that as well, and still is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you say you don't really have a performer bone in your body. You just enjoy training, and that's it?
Yep. I don't care to be on stage. Like, I don't hate it, but I have never once in my entire life woken up and been like, oh, I can't wait to perform. Every day I wake up and be like, oh, I can't wait to be done performing so I can get on with my day.
That's interesting. That's like totally backwards compared to pretty much everyone else I know.
Yeah.
Most people train to perform.
Nope.
Interesting. So you've been doing a lot of YouTube videos lately. Do you like doing those?
Yeah. I mean, I view it as when I got into all this stuff 23 or 4 years ago, there were no real resources for it besides reading a textbook. Like, I learned flips from literal stick figure diagrams in old gymnastics textbooks. I would just read them, put out the couch cushions, and throw myself on my head until it worked. So, given that there were no resources, I want to try and fix that for the upcoming generations, especially with the advent of streaming video, because back when my dinosaur self was learning, there was no such thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I enjoy it. It was definitely very tedious and very difficult of a learning curve to, like, realize it's not as simple as just, oh, I understand how this works. Just put a camera at me and I'll talk and it'll be done. I spend probably about 6 months on every single video. I would say on average. Some of them take very little time, but some of them...
6 months?
Oh, yeah. No, I am meticulous with it.
Okay, that's crazy.
I approach it like a research study every single time. So if I'm making a tutorial, I go into it with this idea of, okay, I think I know how the trick works because I can do it.
Yeah.
I then write down a framework of what that entails, and then I try and teach myself the trick on my bad side doing that, assuming it's a twisting trick. Because I think of it as a new game plus from a video game where you go in with all your armor and weapons and knowledge. So if I can't do the trick knowing what it should feel like, knowing that I'm physically capable of doing it based on my own tutorial, then my tutorial's bullshit. I'm just relying on muscle memory. So I try and do that, and then I also try to teach as many people as I can to see what sort of issues they run into that maybe I did run into, or new issues that I didn't experience, because everyone's coming from a different background, and basically just trying to come up with the most comprehensive, just, it's this kind of approach to things.
Yeah. 6 months. That's crazy. That's pretty much the exact opposite of me. I think so. They're like, oh, let's just pull this out right now. Like if I am like I have this thought that I try to do everything to 90% complete, because usually that last 10% takes the longest. So if 70% is completed, I try to do everything 90%, because like if I need to paint something, I could usually just spray paint it and then it'll be done, versus grind off all of the previous paint and then repaint it, which no one's ever going to notice. You know, that extra 10% usually takes a lot longer. If I had to plan for that long, I feel like I would just have this giant to-do list of things.
It's very long. And I think a lot of these things are not going to take as much time as they end up taking, because, you know, I know how the trick works. And then somewhere along the line in this process, I realized that I've completely missed some major facet of it, or my preconceived notions of what's actually important is perhaps not the main driving thing behind it. And then when you wind up with skills where there are just like tangibly multiple ways of doing it, for example, like diving in and doing a cradle revert back to the wall. Some people do it with both feet up, some do it with 1 foot up, 1 down, some people do it with both feet hitting the ground or the trampoline. And they all rely on somewhat different physics. So then having to go through all of those and just be like, okay, I want to make sure I understand this in every possible way. So I run experiments with it. I take my arms out of the equation. I take my legs out of the equation. I experiment with looking in different places, not looking at all. Because even if you ask a lot of the best people in the world at any discipline, they'll give you different answers. If you ask, for example, Dylan Broadway how he does that trick versus Garrett Myers versus Julian Colari versus Dylan Vance, they're all going to say something slightly different.
Yeah.
And I just want to make sure I cover every single base.
You turn acrobatics into basically like a case study or something.
Yep. I literally do that.
You could be like the Elon Musk of acrobatics.
I'll take that.
The way I'm thinking of you now.
Hopefully it comes
This is
with
very
the paycheck.
meticulous. I had no idea you thought this way.
Oh, yes.
Because I always see the stuff you're doing, and I'm like, what goes through his brain to where he gets to this, like, weird thing that you're doing? You're doing some weird stuff on a different level. So I kind of think, like, every time I see a Scott McDonald, I'm like, all right, how is he going to almost land on his head or, like, weird twist? It's like, I kind of, some of the tricks that you do, it's very like, what's the parkour guy? Pasha. Pasha has very similar style, but with like parkour.
Yep.
It's kind of like if you throw up a cat and who knows what's going to happen.
Yep.
Do you have cats?
I used to have a cat.
Yeah?
Yeah, just have a dog now.
Just a dog. He's not as acrobatic though, probably.
No, very much not.
Yeah. So, okay. So the YouTube tutorials, you do 6 months ahead.
Mm-hmm.
How has the traction been on the YouTube channel? Terrible, right?
Oh, yeah.
You know what's awesome is ever since you started doing tutorials, my traction from my videos that I like the tutorials I was doing like 7 years ago, it's all going up now.
Nice.
So I'm like, the more videos Scott does, the better that I do.
There you
but
go.
It's like the videos, they'll usually get like a couple hundred views in the first year, and then like over time, some of them will collect, and even like I haven't posted a YouTube video other than these podcasts in years, and some of them still get a few thousand views every day.
Nice.
Some are a lot more, but they take a while to like go. YouTube's kind of like buying like a really small stock every single day, and eventually it starts to collect over time. But the problem is there's not many other people who are doing Trampwall videos.
Exactly.
But eventually there will be, and like my videos, in 7 years, someone else will be making other videos.
Yep.
Okay, so I got a lot of questions from people on this,
sweet.
and a lot of them were very interesting. All right, I have one from a owner of a gym that you might go to. His name's Brand.
I know that guy.
Yes, you do, I'm sure. You go there quite a bit, right?
Pretty much every day.
I was kind of thinking something similar to this question. So, what kind of goal settings do you do when you're thinking of learning new tricks?
Dang, I don't know if I can answer that in 2 hours. Well, I have my big list of things that I don't know how to do that I would like to know how to do, which is everything I don't know already how to do. The top of that list is air flares, though. That's my bucket list trick, to be honest. I've been working on it for like over a decade with infuriatingly little progress in the last 4 years. Like, if you look at me doing an air flare, it looks like I actually kind of know what I'm doing. It looks pretty clean, but I cannot continue it to save my life. So in situations like that, I try and take a multifaceted approach where I'm like, okay, try the trick itself. Is it working? Yes or no? Okay, maybe not. Look at all the different things that go into making it work and drill those individually. I guess that's kind of the overarching thing. No matter what it is, I take my approach to training myself and coaching others from operant conditioning, I believe is the name of it. It was, I'm going to paraphrase here, but I believe his name was Brian Skinner. He was a psychologist or a psychiatrist, and he came up with this idea of reinforcing learning by breaking it down into sort of individualized chunks that are easy to kind of manage by themselves, and mastering all of those while being okay with other facets of the skill sort of declining while your focus is external or elsewhere. And then getting all of those little different components to all be pretty good, and then sort of averaging them all together and forgiving yourself if it's not the most stellar product result. But also part of that is quitting while you're ahead, which is really, 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 really difficult to do. Because what tends to happen, in my experience at least, is you're working on something, it's hard, you make some progress, you're elated about the progress, you want to repeat that, but you can only do that so many times as you're getting increasingly more exhausted, both physically and neurologically. So you wind up kind of going through this plateau that then goes uphill and everything's great, but then you're trying to end on a bad note and you always want to try and do better than the previous one, but you're just kind of wearing yourself out, and it just becomes increasingly harder as you get into this pit of exhaustion to do better than you were doing when you were fresh.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been an incredibly hard thing to teach myself to do, but just to like, when it's worked, maybe do it 3 to 5 times and be like, nope, we're done. Don't touch it again.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, that's good. Like when I'm playing guitar and I'm learning a new song, I'll play it for like a little bit, and then I'll usually put it down and I'll come back the next day.
Mm-hmm.
And the first day I will never get it, but the second day I'll come back and it'll just be like there.
It's more
you have
natural.
like a fresh brain. Yeah, like the creativity stuff is, it doesn't work when you're exhausted. Like there's certain things you can do if you just keep going and going, like exhausting yourself. Like outside I'm doing welding and I could pretty much just keep going. But the moment I need to like fabricate something and put it together a little bit, or I need to be creative, I'm just like, I need to come back to this tomorrow. Otherwise I won't be able to do it. How is your like rest and recovery? Do you take supplements? Like seems like you're constantly going.
I used to. Not really. These days I take CBD and I feel like that's helpful for my muscles just to kind of relax a bit. But I just stretch like it's my religion. Like I stretch and foam roll. I have a yoga wheel that I use every day, multiple times a day. I try and get absolutely brutal deep tissue kind of torture massages quite frequently. And I treat my conditioning and recovery as an active thing rather than a resting thing. I get good sleep. I don't like party. I don't eat candy or junk food. Like I would say that not necessarily by design, but just kind of by my own inherent who I am way of approaching life, I get pretty good results from it. But yeah, I've never been a fan of fast food or like cake or something. So
yeah,
I just kind of eat relatively healthy.
Interesting. Do you take the CBD at night?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I also by day, to be honest, just always.
In the daytime?
Mm-hmm.
I sleep so well when I take CBD. I usually take CBD and then I'll take another sleep supplement, but I like pass out so hard and I wake up and I'm just like, oh, so tired. But getting that like super deep sleep is really good for your body. And you stretch a lot still every day?
Oh, yeah.
How long do you stretch for?
It varies. If I'm really in like the zone, hours, but at bare minimum, I would say half an hour a day. Yeah.
That's a lot of stretching.
Yeah.
Do you have like massage guns and stuff you use at home?
I do, but I don't use it nearly as much as a foam roller or like a trigger point ball or lacrosse ball or something like that. Like I find the massage guns are fine, but they're not as intense as what I would go for.
Do you have a massage chair?
I don't.
Did you see mine downstairs?
I didn't, but
I bought a like $12,000 massage chair
nice.
like 7 years ago.
Nice.
And it's the greatest investment ever because if I ever need to do computer work or something, you
can
just sit in it. And it's also a chiropractic one, so it like pulls your back apart and everything.
All right.
It's really good, and you can get them like I think used or like returned or something like refurbished for like $5,000, and it's worth like every single penny because you'll just sit there.
Yeah, that's a long-term investment too. Like,
yeah, mine's good. I bought it in 2018, and it still works perfect.
Nice.
It's totally worth it. So, do you do anything else other than acrobatics?
Think about acrobatics, write about acrobatics, make videos and edit them about acrobatics.
Is there a book going to be coming out?
Actually, yes.
Yeah?
That's one of my projects that I'm barely just beginning on. I want to write a number of books actually on it. Some are just kind of like essentially boring technical manuals of this is how a full up versus a regular full versus a full down work and things like that. But also, I think that just kind of taking the idea that I'm going with my YouTube of just a resource for how to get into all this, whether for your fun or for work, would be something that might be beneficial.
Yeah. The YouTube videos are great for book writing. I'm also writing a book and
Nice.
like going back and looking at all my tutorials and all the shorts and stuff that I make. It's good like highlights and I can like find little parts that I want to put in the book. So the YouTube channel is like perfect for just note taking about what you want to do. And what do you think your future is going to be? Are you just going to be coaching, or do you enjoy coaching?
Yeah, very much so. So right now I'm back in school. I realize, so I'm almost 36, and given that I never really wanted to have a performing career in the first place, it's not exactly something that I'm like, oh, I can't wait to perform when I'm 70. I don't even want to perform now. No offense to my job. But so I went back to school because I realized, okay, at the end of all this, I'm going to need something beyond is really good at cartwheel variations on my resume.
Yeah.
And I realized that in most workplaces and industries, having some fancy letters after your name makes life a lot easier. So I'm trying to get my PhD in essentially sports science. I'm very interested. I'm doing a major in kinesiology and a minor in psychology right now. I think that with the stuff that we do, there is a very big biomechanical component to anything, the physics of how the tricks work. But once you're, well, actually, no. I was going to say once you're at a certain level, it's almost entirely psychological. But I feel like at almost any level, the psychology kind of precedes the physics of it. Like, it doesn't matter if you know how to do something if you're afraid to even attempt it. So I'm really fascinated by all these different issues that we all run into in various ways, whether it's imposter syndrome, you show up to Cirque du Soleil and everyone in your dressing room went to the Olympics and you're just like, cool. Or, the intimidation of returning to performance after you've been injured and all the different things that go through your head then. The psychology of injuries, especially in a group context where it's like you might be putting the burden of what would be your track onto your teammates and all the issues that come with that. And a lot of it's very self-imposed. I don't think anyone else is out there like waiting to vilify their castmates, but you never know. We all go through these different processes. So, yeah.
Do you come across a lot of overuse injuries?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, if you look at that same statistic of the volume of shows in town, if you're doing almost 500 shows a year plus rehearsals that you are not paid for, even if you were paid for, you'd still be doing them. That's just a ton of work. Like, look at any major sporting body, whether it's the UFC, the NFL, the NHL, basketball, baseball, soccer, any sport. They don't do that. They have off seasons, they train, and their games are more sporadic. It's like you're doing a game on the weekend or something like that. It's not like, oh, I did 10 games this week.
Yeah.
Like, what? Plus practice. No,
Yeah.
You wouldn't do that because you'd wind up with a bunch of injured athletes and that gets expensive, whether it's insurance or having to replace them or any of those things. So, yeah, I think overuse injuries are kind of the name of the game in the circus world. And a lot of people being specialists, even if they're not performing with that volume, it's still, they're training constantly. If you're doing the same thing over and over, like hand balancing, for example, that's going to be a lot on your wrists. It's going to be a lot on your shoulders. It's going to be a lot on your neck. How do you get away with that? Like, it just kind of is what it is, and those things need to be trained pretty much constantly because the nuances are so specific and so difficult. It's like, I would say the difference between the bottom 99% of people in any given discipline versus the differences within that top 1% are, kind of different. This top 1%, to go from like, I don't know, me as a hand balancer, for example. I've performed hand balancing on the strip in a major show as a soloist, but I'm not really a hand balancer. You want to see someone like that, you get like Andre Bondarenko, someone along those lines.
Yeah.
So the gap between me and people like Andre is, I would say, a much wider gulf than someone who's never done a handstand and me. Maybe there's a little bit of, I don't know, it's hard to gauge oneself completely objectively in these things. You get the Dunning-Kruger effect where everyone thinks they're going to be really good. They start, they think they suck, and then when they reach a certain point, they still think that everyone can do what they can do because they can do it. And I know that a lot of people in this world run into that too. But like, I don't know. I feel like I'm babbling in circles now, but yeah, all this shit's really difficult.
Yeah. Well, the overuse injuries is like the one thing that I'm super aware of now. I have pretty bad arthritis in my ankles, so unless I'm in a show now, I don't do any training at all unless I go to the gym. I think of the gym as kind of like I think of the gym as more recovery though. I'm not trying to like gain any muscle. I'm just trying to like stretch and make sure all of my muscles are working.
Definitely.
But for me, it's like more dangerous. Like acrobatics is pretty dangerous when you really break it down. And if you get hurt, unfortunately, you can't make money.
Yep.
So now I'd have like ankle injuries and just walking around and stuff. It hurts.
Yep.
Been performing for like 16 years now. And when you say that, I'm thinking like, man, yeah, like between shows, I wish I wasn't like constantly like learning new tricks and stuff. Have you heard of Faraz Hobby? He's George St. Pierre, who's a famous UFC fighter. He's his head coach.
Oh, okay.
And the way he has a pretty famous video on Joe Rogan talking about how you should never be sore whenever you're training. And you should, instead of, let's say, for example, if someone can do 5 pull-ups, that's the most you can ever do. If he was to train you, he would never have you do 5 pull-ups. He would make you do 2. And then when 2 is easy, you start to do 3. But you would do them every single day. So that way you've trained pull-ups every single day for an entire week. And by the end of the week, you've done so much more than if you were to do 5 one day. And then the next day, you're too sore to do any pull-ups.
Yeah.
And you're at risk. And then by the time you can do pull-ups, it's 3 days later. And by the end of the week, you've only done 10. But the first guy has done 14 plus pull-ups. And if you expand that over a long period of time, you've done significantly more volume than the person who just maxes out all the time. And a lot of these people actually, like I see people at Circus Center all the time when I would go, and they'd be there every single day. You were one of them, actually. And you just keep going, and I'm just like, how does he do this? Like, it's either, I mean, you will run into overuse injuries, but just breaking it up and doing twice a week training. How often do you train?
Every day.
Every day. So just throw out what I'm thinking.
Well, but I train a lot of different disciplines, so that way so I can always avoid. Yeah,
exactly. So different parts of your body are, maybe you don't do Trampwall every day. It's like twice a week or something like that.
Yep, I break it up. And honestly, a lot of the training I do these days is less for my own learning new skills and more just like, I need to research whatever this trick I'm making a tutorial for is. Let's do it thousands of times. But yeah, I mean, like, if I want to work out my upper body more, I'll do air flares, I'll do some hand balancing, even juggling, certain tricks on Russian swing. Like, there's nothing like a hanging upside down by your grip to make sure you don't die, to make sure you get a good grip strength.
Yeah, that's a good one. You do Russian swing?
Yeah.
What about teeterboard?
Poorly.
Poorly?
Very poorly.
Do they have one that you can use at Circus Center?
Not right now. They've got 3 sitting in the back that I hope become part of classes and stuff. And I believe they're all from that one Swedish dude who makes them. But I don't know when that's going to happen. But I do know at AGC, Rebecca Bubnar has one, and they've been doing like open sessions on that. And also a guy called Alistair Wynn, who I met the other day. They both have like the Swedish dude boards. So
cool. Yeah. I wonder if they're the same as the ones that I've been making. I made 3 in the last like month.
Nice.
And I'm getting really good at making them.
Nice.
It's kind of like an easy process now. But some of them are like super flingy. I love it. I want to take one. I wonder if Circus Center would allow me to bring a teeterboard there and learn flips into the foam pit, because I have like all these mats outside and stuff, but it's a little different than landing in a nice soft foam pit. I've always wanted to take it to either a cliff jump or into water.
Please let me know when you do.
Because I haven't really seen anyone do teeterboard into a pool yet. So if you have a pool and you want to see me and Scott come do some crazy flips in your pool, there will be a lot of belly flops, and it'll be a really fun time.
I would love to see what people like Tom Amirati could do on that. If he's pulling quad backs onto a drop mat, imagine if he doesn't have to care.
Yeah.
Or do like 4.5 to back dive and stuff like that.
Yeah. So these teeterboards that I've been making are super light and very portable.
Nice.
So hypothetically, if I wanted to take it to Nelson's Landing, it wouldn't be that bad. They're pretty small. Each one I've been making a little bit smaller and smaller to see how small we can essentially make them. Because I would like to be able to just ship them off and or just take them on and pack them as a surfboard, basically. Nice. That's ideally the thing to do. Because unfortunately, everything else we have is like a ramp or a tramp wall, or everything is really big. And
super heavy.
I end up just having to drive everything everywhere. Yeah. So how long do you plan on staying around acrobatics? Do you have other interests other than it at all?
I'm interested in a bit of everything, to be honest. Like, I feel like I always kind of came into life as a generalist, and then that just became acrobatics became a microcosm of generalism. But no, I mean, what I would love to do with all of this, because I'm doing all these research projects, I have the Circus Meets Medicine medical conference every year. I'm going to a lot of conferences and doing presentations. I just want to keep this going and also see ways that acrobatics correlates with other sports, because the unfortunate truth is, at least as of the time we're recording this, there's very little money to be made in acrobatics compared to like football, MMA, things like that, Formula One. But I do feel like there's a lot of correlation between the things that we do and those sports. Like, every sport have their issues with concussions. Well, there's a lot of really specific concussions that happen in acrobatics. And within concussions, there's different types of concussions as well. There are ones that are induced from torsion, which you can kind of isolate in things like Spanish web in circus, where someone is just spinning and they're just moving, I guess, on two axes at the same time. But nonetheless, there are no impacts. There's no blunt force trauma to the head. There's also coup contra coup, which is where you get hit versus where you get hit and your brain hitting the other side of your skull and therefore getting an injury on that side as well. And we see things like that when you fall off of something. Like, I fractured my skull when I was 12, and that would have been a very bad coup contra coup concussion. But on a much smaller level, in things like trampoline, where you're bouncing on your back and there's just a little bit of movement going on here, or extrapolate that further into Trampwall, I do feel like there's a lot of things that, let's say you're in a race car and you're just getting your head jostled around a lot, you might be experiencing similar symptoms to someone doing Trampwall for like 2.5 hours straight, or being on a roller coaster. Like, I always remember specifically at Six Flags Magic Mountain in California, there's a roller coaster called X2, and that thing is brutal. Like, it's a fun roller coaster, but I just remember being on it and just getting my head smashed back and forth in this little, it's supposed to be a headrest, but it's just sort of a head damager.
Yeah.
And I feel like that, I mean, that thing is concussing you for sure, to some extent at least. And yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of things that are so specific to this, but could be applied somewhere else. You see astronauts in a centrifuge going around really fast. Put them on a Spanish web, see what happens. Take a Russian swing and strap some dude to it and throw him around. I'd be curious to see the effects of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did, I have a little portable accelerometer that my colleague Nate and I use for some of our research projects. It weighs like a couple grams. It's from a company called Wix, I think. WIT, something like that. And so I took a GoPro bite guard, taped it to it, and did pops on Trampwall. And I was very curious to see how many G-forces my head was experiencing at any time in this. And at the very bottom of the bounce, just momentarily, we registered 15 Gs when I was hitting the trampoline, which is a really worrying number for someone's brain, basically.
So we might all be getting minor concussions every time.
That is
to a
my
degree.
fear. I hope not. And we
I mean,
are.
we kind of have
studies.
to be to some degree, like a 10% of a concussion or something every time we train.
I don't know. We'll find out. We have we're waiting to find out about a grant that we submitted a proposal for to do concussion studies with Trampwall, because it's very near and dear to me, but also I have witnessed so many people getting micro-concussed and not so micro-concussed from Trampwall injuries, and I've seen the effects of cumulative concussions on people and on myself. It's not a good thing, and the thing that really truly worries me is, if you think about the kind of people who are attracted to Trampwall, they tend to be very sendy. Like, look at all the teenage boys who are getting into it in particular. Like, this demographic tends to be the kind of person who's going to be like, oh, I'm going to do it, even if you don't necessarily have like the technical background that you should be doing it.
That was me when I first started.
Same.
I was landing on my head left and right.
Yeah, same. And I've seen all these people, and in myself, like, developing these symptoms of like irritability, brain fog, dizziness, and forgetfulness and things. And I'm just like, this is worrying. So I really want to get like clinical data to see, not in any way to try and ruin the sport. I mean, people know that they get concussions from getting punched in the face, but they still do martial arts. People know that getting a 300-pound dude, oh no. But yeah, so basically just, you know, there are lots of sports where people know there are risks of concussions. They still participate. People know that if you're riding a scooter, for example, with no helmet and you smash your head on the concrete, it's not going to be a good day. Yeah. Still, people ride scooters or rollerblade or skate with no helmet. Like, it's just sort of an associated risk that you have to accept. Yep. And with any kind of acrobatics, obviously, there's going to be some kind of risk, because look what we do.
Yeah, there's I had probably gone. So this is my 16th year performing. I had never missed a single show in 15 years until this recent year. I separated my shoulder and had a pretty bad concussion on a trick that I've done a million times on a scooter. And it's just like, even the most basic of things is essentially still inherently dangerous.
I would even argue more dangerous, because typically when it's something new, you're going to be really vigilant and focused. But if it's something you've done tons of times, you're like, oh, whatever, walking down the street, broken ankle.
Yeah, so we had a new person in the show, and he was subbing for another injury that we had. And we didn't really have too much time to choreograph him in, so I would be yelling the choreography to him as I'm airing the ramps and stuff. So I'm not even thinking about the things that I'm doing, and I just slipped a foot or something. I don't even remember. Just remember doing a trick.
Yep.
Not even like one of the harder tricks, and just next thing you know, I'm like rolling around on the ground.
Oh yeah, that sounds about right. All my worst injuries have been just random careless moments. I fractured my skull stepping off a trampoline, and my sock just got caught in the springs and turned me into a human pendulum.
Yeah.
I broke this rib double bouncing a friend who just came down and broke their wrist on my rib. I broke this tooth doing a jump full turn and just like kneed myself in the mouth. I fully severed my ATFL and my CFL in my left ankle doing, again, a jump full turn. It's just dumb stuff. It's never like, oh, I was doing a quad layout and saving kids from a burning orphanage. It's just, I was walking and I fell over.
Yeah. So, okay, so you mentioned something earlier about acrobats not making that much. How do we get them more money?
Union would be great. But
Union would be great.
I feel like the window for that was the pandemic, and I feel like no one went for it, because the reality of it is so many people in this industry are immigrants who are here on a P1 or an O1 visa provided by the company they work for, so they don't really want to bite the hand that feeds or, make any waves.
Yeah, we were talking about that on one of the previous podcasts. A lot of people are coming from other countries, and they kind of don't really have any leverage to do anything, and a lot of the Americans are getting their rates decreased after being in the shows for years.
Yeah.
I find it's a big problem that Cirque du Soleil, when you go to see Cirque du Soleil, you don't know a single artist in the show, which means everyone is replaceable, which means no one has any leverage in that company. So even though my show's still very small, I do the absolute best that I can to help develop people's names. We run ads behind them and stuff, so that way at the end of the day, I'm creating them to have more leverage with me, because I would rather have Dylan Broadway in the show, someone we've put tens of thousands of dollars marketing behind. But when people go to see our show, they expect to see someone like Dylan. And for everyone, it makes more sense. And, if, for example, like Nitro Circus, they do a really good job at marketing their athletes. Guys like Ryan Williams have made millions of dollars at this point because they market them. But the big fish in our industry is Cirque du Soleil, and they don't give anyone any sort of marketing.
Yeah.
Like zero, pretty much, right?
Not by name, at least.
There's not a single person in any of the shows named, is there? Like, it's always just like, here's the jump rope people, or here's the Trampwall people. I can't think of a single show where they're like, this is Scott Mcdonald.
Mad Apple, they do to an extent, because they have like comedians and stuff. Not Cirque du Soleil, but one thing I have seen recently that I think is really cool is Pink right now on her tour with Christian, Mo, Jake, and Marley.
Yeah.
She announces them all to these big ass stadiums by name. They're up on the big screen. It flashes like Jake Hinga or Jake at least. And they then do a solo. I think that's amazing that someone in her position is going to be like, look, spotlight, showcase. I think that's great. Because, like as you're saying, with any other sport, it's called Tony Hawk Pro Skater. It's not anonymous pro skater.
Yeah.
If people are into football or Formula One or any sport, typically there's an element of personality behind it. It's this, that's my player, that's my guy, that's my team, whatever it is. It's not like, that dude dressed like a bird is really good at being a bird. And he is, but we don't know his name.
Yeah, you'll never know his name. You don't get a meet and greet, none of that stuff. And even just small things like what Pink is doing, like when I worked for All Wheels, we would announce our names and everything and say something about you at the end of the show. But if I go to Sandusky, Ohio, where I did shows for 8 years, still today, everyone will know who I am.
Nice.
Just because of that show. So just like little things like that, I wish they were doing at least a little bit of, or a show program or something like that. But essentially, they're
programs.
Do they put people in there?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
They don't update it like every time somebody new joins the show, just because there's constant churn with like injuries and temps and so on. But no, they have programs. I actually still have the Dralion program from like 1999. It was the first Cirque du Soleil show I ever saw. But
what was it called?
Dralion.
Dralion.
Yeah,
Never
like
even
Dragon Lion. It was actually also one of the first shows with Trampwall. But when I saw it, Trampwall was not yet part of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that kind of changed my life and put us on this entire trajectory right now.
Yeah.
And my parents dragged me to it. I didn't want to go see it, and actually it was really cool.
That's interesting. I saw All Wheels Extreme in 1998 at Knott's Berry Farm, and that's why I am here where I am.
Yeah. Sometimes it just takes seeing someone do some cool stuff in a show, even if you don't know who they are.
Yeah.
In this case, for me, it was Victor Key popping out of a big metal spider and juggling in this really weird way that I was like, I don't understand what I'm seeing, but it's different. It's cool.
Yeah. So, can you talk more about that Circus Meets Medicine?
Yeah, absolutely.
You're going to do it again this year?
Yeah, it'll be March 22nd.
March 22nd. Cool. I went to that last year. It was really interesting.
Thank you.
How is it going to be different this year?
This year, so last year we had people performing full acts, and we had a panel and all these different presentations. This year, it's going to be similar, but instead of people just doing an act and then the audience kind of making up whatever they want to think about it, we're going to have the people who are actually performing explain what the reality of their discipline is. So, for example, I had this experience where I was doing Trampwall shows at Six Flags in LED morph suits with Chris Purdy, and I couldn't see anything I was doing. It was very difficult. And I would be doing like one-arm vampires, 1 and 3s, which is not a big trick these days, but nonetheless, it's in the dark. So blind 1 and 3s, no one applauds. Then you kick up into a handstand and you look at the audience and clap your feet, and they're like, oh, his arms are his legs. Or like when I was doing hand balancing for Chris Angel, I would do one arms. They don't care. I would do a croc or an elbow lever, whatever you want to think of it as. Audience loses their mind because they've seen it in a yoga class one day or something. It's like people don't understand that the crowd pleasing tricks are
it has
not
to be
the
relatable.
thing. Yeah. Or even like acrobats. You're an acrobat. I watched your interview with Nick Hodge, and you were talking about how when you were trying Sear Wheel, you thought coins were like the big skill.
Yeah.
But then when you watch competitions and him doing his stuff, you realize actually this is kind of like a more basic trick.
Yeah.
So it's that same thing. It's like the audience, they see a backflip and they're like, that guy is a ninja. They see a quad backflip, they don't know any different. So for this, we want to have the people who are actually doing the thing explain, look, when I'm doing this, what's actually difficult is this. You all applauded for that, but this is the tricky part, and here's why. From a biomechanical perspective, a wear and tear perspective, all these different little nuances and subtle things that you might not think about as an audience member. For example, if you're a juggler or a Trampwall artist, what you really do not want is a light right there. People who are lighting designers don't know that, because why would they? They don't do the thing.
Yeah.
But then those same factors can also be part of research studies or just sort of general concerns about acrobatics that the outside world might not be aware of. So, yeah.
Interesting. So how much does it cost to get into that thing?
Not much. It's going to be somewhat different ticket prices this year, depending on whether you're a medical student, like a professional physician, or someone who is neither of the above, but it's going to be like $30 at most. It's not going to be anything prohibitive. We want it to be accessible.
Yeah. It's good though. I like that you're doing that. It's something that I've wanted to do, but more geared towards like the business of acrobatics and teaching people how to make money, because essentially pretty much most of my friends are not doing so well financially.
Yep.
And with just some basic knowledge of how to do your taxes and stuff, it can really change people's lives.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I like that it's accessible. I had a lot of fun at it last year. I really want to have someone talk more about the stem cells and stuff, because that's something that I would really like. I'm either weighing out getting stem cells shot into my ankles or just getting an ankle replacement, and I don't know what to do.
Have you heard of BPC 157?
I take it every day.
Oh, there you go.
I started taking it when I got my shoulder injury, and it healed my shoulder so quickly. Unfortunately, it doesn't really heal cartilage that just doesn't exist in your ankles anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it healed my. Trust me, I tried. So I would put it in my shoulder pretty much every single night. I'd have my girlfriend inject it because I just can't do the needle thing.
Valid.
But after like a month or two, my shoulder was feeling great. So then I started injecting it like all over the place. I'm like, well, this hurts a little bit. This hurts a little bit. And then the other day I tried to start injecting it into my ankle because my ankle's freaking hurt. And my ankle swelled up like crazy. I'm pretty sure you're not supposed to inject it into wherever I was injecting it, but I'm just like being a retard. Like, oh, it hurts over here.
Whoops.
Let's put it over in here.
Yeah.
Didn't work.
No personal experience with it, but I know a number of people who have used it for pec injuries, shoulder injuries, elbow injuries, and they've all had universally really staggering results.
Yeah.
I'm afraid of it, to be honest, just because, you know, any kind of rapid cell regeneration could also become cancer if some kind of bad mutation were to happen.
Yeah.
So I'm just kind of sitting on the sidelines like a scaredy cat waiting to find out what happens in the long run. But if it is in fact safe, and I hope it is, then that seems like a world-changing treatment.
Yeah.
I know a lot of professional athletes and fighters and people like that use it, so that was kind of my introduction to it.
Yeah.
Actually, no. A pediatrician introduced me to it. Now that I think about it, they sent me a study that they did with lab rats where they had severed the Achilles tendon from a rat, been like, scoosh, scoosh, here's some BPC. And then within 21 days, it had regenerated. And within 42 days, it was like running mazes like nothing had ever happened. And the idea of taking a month and a half to have a tendon completely regrow from nothing and just be like, oh, it's fine. That's insane.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So far, I've really liked it. I have started to wean off of it because my shoulder's pretty much back to 100%, even though it's like literally not even in the same place it used to be. It's pretty much totally back to normal. And until I start to have like more injuries, like a sprained ankle or something like that, where I believe it just heals ligaments and tendons. I'm not too sure. Actually, I didn't obtain it from a doctor, but I am going to a doctor this week to probably get some more and just figure out what, because injecting into my ankle clearly wasn't a good idea. But
yeah,
I didn't read the manual. I'm just going.
It should be it should be able to be applied to more things. Because do you know what it actually comes from?
Well, BPC? Nope.
Stomach lining. It's
interesting.
Yeah. So if you think about your stomach, there's acid in it that's constantly just burning the lining of your stomach, and it constantly has to rejuvenate itself. So that is what it got isolated from.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Now my friend just like, hey, you want some BPC for your shoulder? And I'm like,
sure.
What's that? Yeah, actually, I really do, because my insurance apparently doesn't cover anything. And then when I got back here from, because I got injured in Chicago, and I came back here, and then basically like I tried to make all these appointments, and my insurance was like, yeah, but it's gonna be this amount. I'm like, I thought you guys covered this stuff, and they're like, no, no, we covered the hospital trip.
Not if it helps you.
Yeah, so then I started going. I'm starting to go to a doctor that's more of like a subscription model, where instead of going through insurances, they just have like a subscription service, which I find to be a better business model, because they're not based off of getting money from insurances, where I find there's quite a bit of corruption, and then there's a lot of doctors, like there's nothing for me. I can't take advice from a doctor who's out of shape. I'm just like, dude, you don't even take care of yourself, and you're gonna tell me like what I should do. So, and unfortunately that's like most normal doctors nowadays. So there is fortunately like a new business model where they just have a subscription service, and they're incentivized to give you the best advice and not to basically just try to give you things because insurance is going to pay for it. And if you don't have insurance, then they probably, I don't even know how that stuff works actually too much, but I know there's like a couple companies that are Ways Too Well. I heard them on Joe Rogan. They have a subscription service basically, and they can give you BPC 157 and stuff. And this place that I'm going to is in Vegas, and I think it's called Ageless.
Okay.
And I bet you they would be pretty good to have at the Circus Meets Medicine. Apparently the guy's like super good doctor, and
cool. I'll look into it.
Yeah. Anyways, so what do you got going on for the rest of the day?
I thought that I was doing a show tonight. Turns out I'm not. So hanging out with my wife.
Yeah.
And continuing to edit yet another video and school assignments.
So 1 video a week. That's what you're going for?
So in like the last couple months, in the knowledge that I was not going to have as much time because my school semester was going to start in January and then life as we know it is over, which is right now. I tried to make enough videos that I would have just sort of an archive that I could post once a week. And if I could, more than that. So it's a 16-week semester. I currently have 16 videos completed and sitting in my hard drive, so I can just sort of breathe for a moment while I work on the other ones, because since they all take a really obnoxiously long time, that kind of gives me just a little bit of a head start.
Yeah. Do you have a certain discipline that you enjoy more than the others?
To make videos for or to do?
To do.
Russian swing.
Russian swing.
Mm-hmm.
That's like the only one that I haven't done.
Mm.
We had it in my backyard for a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
and I told them to get it out. I was like, dude, get this death trap out of here.
It is a death trap. There's no denying that. I like doing not conventional Russian swing with it, although I enjoy that as well. But I like doing stuff on it as if it were a half pipe that goes all the way around.
Yeah.
There was an act at Beatles Love that my friend Chris Carrison used to do, where he had an aerial Russian swing. So the fulcrum was mounted 31 feet above the stage, and then I believe 8-foot poles, and then the board itself. So at any given time, he was really quite high. If he were to fall, he'd probably die. There was no safety line, no mats, no net, no anything.
Is that like the devil?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the devil replaced that when he left the show, because good luck doing that act with other people. But in any case, he would do just crazy stuff. Like, I really enjoy going all the way around and like stalling it upside down and taking my feet off and all these things, or like doing hand plants. He's a lunatic. He would go upside down and just hang by his fingertips and stuff like that. He would like wrap his legs around it and just go upside down with no hands and just hang by his knees and be like, this is fine. So yeah, everything I've done on it is just sort of like a sugar-free Splenda copy of what he's done. But it's super fun, and it's actually very meditative in its own weird kind of, if you slip, you die right now kind of thing. So you're just very focused.
Yeah, because you can go all the way around pretty easily by yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Could you go around but take your hands off?
No. He could, but by locking the legs. You could if you were going fast enough. Like, the physics would allow
people do
for
the
it.
loop on rollerblades and stuff.
Yeah. So it is possible. I think you would just have to crank really, really, really aggressively. And that lurchy moment when you would feel weightless, you would want it to be as brief as humanly possible, because that would be terrifying. Because the thing with Russian swing is, if you were in fact to stall out here and fall, first you're going to hit the fulcrum, probably, head first, because you're upside down. Then you're either going to hit the ground beneath it and then get killed by the swing as it comes by.
Yeah, you're
or
pretty
you're
much
gonna
dead
land back
no
on
matter
it.
what.
Yeah, you're just dead. Like,
why don't they make Russian swings taller so you...
Some are.
Yeah, because I feel like I've seen them do it where, you know, I think you were actually doing it where you were just laying down and the thing was going around. I'm like,
it's scary
shouldn't
as hell.
it be a little taller to where you don't have to worry about being perfectly flat?
It feels like every cowboy movie you've ever seen when you see like the train go over somebody and there's just this much clearance.
Yeah.
It is absolutely terrifying every single time. And even if I know that unless there's a mechanical failure,
What if you're like,
I'm safe.
Halfway through, you're like, oh, I shouldn't have had that donut.
Yeah, right. No, actually, one time, just in my pursuit of weird, stupid, obscure things, I was laying underneath it while it swung, and I was tossing a juggling ball to myself every time it was out of the way.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it sounds like it's cool. It's very underwhelming to watch, but then one time I threw it, it hit one of the sort of upright struts of the swing, and without thinking about it, I just reflexively like reached a different way to try and catch it. But then the swing board was coming and I was just like, oh no, and just pulled it down like right before it essentially smashes my arm, potentially chopping it off. And I was like, yeah, maybe this isn't worth this weird little experiment.
Yeah, I feel like there's got to be a easier, like safer way to do this.
There probably is, but I don't know. Like, I can think of ways to make it safer. You could make it higher, as you're saying.
Yeah,
you could
higher.
make the frame wider. Different frames are different widths depending on the swing manufacturer.
Yeah.
The one at Circus Center is Circus Concept, so it's a very short board, very narrow frame, and very low to the ground. So a lot of the tricks I do on it, if I'm doing a big straddle jump or something, what people don't realize if they don't do it is the main concern in my mind is just retracting everything in time so that when I swing back, I don't have like my arm pinned between the strut and the upright of it, because that's gonna break all of this in half. My radius and my ulna will be gone if I just mess that up. Like, I've had one time where I had my elbow wrapped around one of the struts as I was swinging, and I just leaned it slightly further out and smashed my tricep and my elbow off the frame. Fortunately, it wasn't so far out that it got caught, because that would have just destroyed me. But like, everything about that is a death trap.
Yeah.
That's why it's fun.
Yeah, I was now that I'm like welding and stuff, I was thinking about making one, and then I was like, nah, I probably just don't want anything to do with Russian swing. And after this conversation, I want less to do with it.
I was gonna say, reinforce that belief for you.
Yeah. I like teeter boards because they're I like everything in the off-axis show to be relatable. So we have essentially a teeter-totter on steroids. We have BMX ramps. Everyone's done that. And then we have a trampoline. Everyone's been on a trampoline at some point in their life. When you start throwing things like a Russian swing, I guess you could say it's like a swing or something, but you're kind of getting out of the relatability to the audience. And like we were talking earlier, people go crazier for a backflip or a handstand than they do for a backflip full or something like that, you know? I always tell people, like, don't do bar spins in our show because the crowd doesn't understand them no matter how many bar spins. If you do 4 bar spins, it's just do a 360.
Yep.
That's the same thing to the audience, you know?
Yep.
Because their mind can grasp that. They can't grasp things that are too technical.
Yeah.
So sometimes people are just, like, too good for their own performance.
Oh, absolutely. I think of it as like, look at any art form, like look at music, for example. You have people who have gone and studied in conservatories to be the best, I don't know, technical jazz player for some instrument. Let's say they play oboe and they're in an orchestra. Well, sorry, incredibly well-trained orchestra oboe guy or incredibly well-trained technical jazz trumpet player. There are people out there who are making pop songs, and you're never going to make as much money as they are from the music that you do because it's not relatable to an audience. Like, or art.
If you're too good, people won't be like, you know, those normal songs with like just a cool sounding rhythm are more relatable.
Look at Bad Guy by Billie Eilish.
Yeah.
It's very simple. It's very catchy.
Hey, do you know how to look at questions when you, because
yes.
Where
go to
I thought you would just click here and they'd be, there we go.
Got you.
The swipe up option is new because I only saw the one because Brand had DM'd me. All right. We have 4 more questions I haven't asked.
Let's go.
From Dylan Broadway. What was the most insane circus stunt you've ever witnessed?
Damn, that's hard.
The next one is ridiculous.
Honestly, I think that Chris Harrison's Russian swing act at Beatles Love, just because the first time I ever saw the show, I had no inkling that was going to be in it, and when I saw a Russian swing coming down from the ceiling, I was just like, no way, this is actually about to happen. And then sure enough, he starts doing all this stuff, and it just escalated to an insane level. Like, right now there's a clip of some dude doing a triple back to and from the same Russian swing at a circus festival.
To and from the same?
Yeah.
How?
Yeah.
Does he go around?
No.
How do you do this
It goes
thing?
up, and then his teammates are like bracing it the same way people do when they go swing to swing at like Lucia or Drawn to Life. But yeah, he just goes straight up, does a triple back, and then really rough landing. I can only imagine how that must have felt on the old pecs and shoulders because it's pretty narrow, and you catch and oh psych, you go right through. But he did it. I think I've seen, I don't know if it's the same guy or the same troupe, but I've seen it done a little cleaner before as well. And I don't mean in any way to disparage the cleanliness of something as insane as that, but that's pretty up there too.
Yeah.
And also just like, I guess it's not circus, but it is acrobatics, and it could be circus if you just threw it on a Cirque du Soleil stage or something. But there's all these G-Tramp kids who are doing just massive, crazy things. There's a Swedish guy called Sebastian Velmom who's doing like septuple twisting triple layout to his stomach, and like his kill bounce is a triple Cody kind of thing, and you're like, oh, okay then, that's fine. Glad I'm never gonna have to audition against you for anything.
Yeah, the I guess the Acronet is kind of that.
Yep.
But with acrobats who are like more controlled.
Yeah. And yeah, actually, with that in mind, all the things that DD Squad are putting on YouTube is so cool.
Yeah.
I love all that stuff. Okay,
next question. It's very important. From Asher Thomas.
All right.
What kind of underwear do you wear?
There's a backstory to that. Lululemon, Under Armour,
what's the backstory?
Oh, man. The backstory is... Once upon a time, there was some dude who he used to work with who asked him... Okay, no. Asher asked this dude what kind of underwear he recommended, because I think this guy was like an underwear model, and he's like this handsome gay dude, and he would probably know what would be the ideal underwear for someone to wear for comfort or for look or whatever it would be. And so he asked this dude... And the guy was like, well, why don't you just like send me a bunch of pictures of you in your underwear and we'll go from there. And he was like, oh, okay. So I think he did. I can't remember if he sent pictures or if he was like, dude, I just want recommendations. But it got a little more coercive from there where you're just like, oh, you have... Yeah.
Interesting.
I'll put it that way.
Well, Asher, I would suggest the sheath underwear. Have you ever heard of those?
No.
Oh my God! There's like a
good name though.
There's little too much details, but there's like a little extra area for your balls, and then there's an extra area for your dick. So the whole thing is like braced in there. Push-up
bra for you.
Something like that, but it holds it in place.
All right.
And
that is important when you're doing flips.
Yeah,
you don't
it's really
want that
nice.
Whiplash.
It's like there's a brace around it.
Huh.
Okay, so Amanda Adventures.
All right.
Asks, proprioception exercises or body awareness in the air.
Dang, okay. Also, fun story. I've known Amanda since she was like 18. It's so funny that she and Luke are like out being huge social media influencers now. I knew her when she was a UCLA student. We used to train at Open Gym together when she was like a dance major.
Interesting.
Very small world. Proprioceptive exercises for air awareness. I would say experimenting with different visual stimuli and a lack thereof. So, for example, doing a backflip while setting looking forwards. Okay, fine. Do one while looking sideways the entire time. Do one while you deliberately do a blink in the middle of it. It's terrifying. Do one where your eyes are closed. Maybe not a backflip, but something that's a little more reliable, like back bouncing. Start trying to add different layers of complexity to challenge yourself with it. It's like someone learning to dance, and I say this as someone who's terrible at dancing. It's like... Or learning to play an instrument. Like every little layer that you add to it just makes your brain work that much harder. And it's kind of like what you were saying with guitar, where day one you're just like, oh, okay, this is difficult. And then the next day you just kind of have more of this baseline. So one thing I love to do with that stuff is just, I have a few YouTube videos that are along the same lines where it's like, okay, I'm back bouncing. Okay, now do a clap behind your back. Now do a clap in front of your stomach and behind your back. Now do 3 claps. Now, I don't know, rub your belly and pat your head at the same time. Just anything that can make you challenge yourself a little bit more without necessarily endangering yourself more.
Yeah.
And also just anything you learn is going to increase your air awareness in general. If you can do a cartwheel, great. Do a one-arm cartwheel. Your regular cartwheel will improve as well. Do an aerial cartwheel. All of the cartwheels you know how to do will improve. Learn it on your other side. Same thing.
Yeah.
So...
I used to get super into detail when I would scooter and try to do like everything like that. I find it gives people a more unique style when they understand all the different variations of how you can do things.
Oh, yeah.
And in my opinion, I think everyone should try to make their own style. It's kind of the meaning of the brand Off Axis is there's no right or wrong way to do anything. Sometimes you're just off axis.
Yeah.
But if you look different than everyone else at an audition or something, you have much more likelihood to get hired. Then I just find it weird that everyone wants to have perfect form and stuff, and I'm like, but you all look the same at that point though.
Yep.
Absolutely. That's my opinion. Apparently it's really popular for everyone to have perfect form and look the same though. But for me, like if I go to see Cirque du Soleil, I have no idea who is who. But I purposely cast people who look different in our shows, who have different styles. Like I wouldn't put 2 people that look the same and do the same kind of stuff in a show, because then why not just have one person at that point?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I very much agree. And that's a big tip I like to give people as well when they're trying to figure out how to put together a demo, what they should do in an audition, or just kind of what direction they should go with their acrobatics. Because as you say, there's an army of clones who come from any sport. If you take gymnastics, trampoline, power tumbling, what they're doing is incredibly difficult. It's extremely impressive, but it's not so unique. And so if you are auditioning, let's say for Mystere, and you want to be one of the people doing power track there, if you have to compete against world champion power tumblers and you are trying to compete, or you're trying to beat them at their own game, you will lose.
Yeah.
100 times out of 100, you will lose. But if you can do something that's just different, whether that's doing some kind of grab, doing something that's unorthodox, like, I don't know, an inward front flip or a gainer instead of just your standard, oh, this is a backflip, it moves backward kind of thing, that's going to set you apart from the whole group. Like, I was a trampolinist at Beatles Love. I'm not a real trampolinist. A lot of those guys are. But, like, if you can do something that at least makes you unique and interesting, that's such an asset.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. I always, when I'm doing shows, I just try to do tricks that everyone else isn't doing.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't have this, like, really weird style of,
Yep.
like, I'm really good at doing rainbows. And
Yep.
only because no one else does rainbows. And I'm like, well, it's such a cool show trick that no one else, I've never really seen anyone else do them over the top of the walls, really.
Yeah.
Or, like, alley-oops and, like,
Mm-hmm.
backwards moving tunnel flips and stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that. So just be unique, I think, is just the, because there's an endless amount of Russians and Ukrainians that you've never even heard of that will come over here and have better form stuff than you. And
No,
we're going to see that pretty soon, I bet.
the post-Soviet 12-year-olds will destroy you at anything at all times, whether it's hand balancing, tumbling, trampoline.
Yeah.
You have to be, I don't want to say unorthodox, but you definitely have to have your own personality and style. And that stuff goes away. Like, it's like, same thing, going back to like the music analogy before. When you can hear a singer and you know who they are as soon as they start singing, they've done their job.
Yep.
If you can hear a band and you are like, oh, I think this is Muse, then they must have an identifiable style.
Yeah.
That's important. It's a brand. You have to have a brand.
Brand is very important.
Yep.
Okay, last question before I let you go.
All right.
Trevor Navarre asks, how did Cirque change over the years?
Well, I joined in 2016, and since then they've had issues of bankruptcy proceedings, being sold, being bought by a new consortium of investors. From the people I know who were in the company earlier than me, it seems that things have become increasingly more corporate as the years have gone by, which makes sense. It became a more lucrative business.
They're owned by a bank too now.
They're owned by a
Anytime
bunch.
the owner is like bought out of a business, the heart and soul leaves the business.
Yep.
There's not that person driving that vision and caring about their employees. And essentially when a bank is owning you, they're not even taking the profits from that company and putting it back into the company. They're putting it elsewhere in other investments that they have. So it's going to be more corporate. I don't see a bright future for Cirque. I think there's going to be a lot of other brands coming around.
Hopefully.
Or maybe I'm just optimistic because I'm one of those brands.
Yeah, quite possibly. Hard to say. I mean, I love Cirque. I like what they do. I think that the quality of life as a performer working for them is excellent in terms of like the benefits, the medical
they do have
care
like
that's
massage
provided.
therapists and stuff.
Yep.
That's nice.
Yeah, and even just like the idea of like having technicians who do your rigging for you and wash and maintain your costumes and things like that for you. Like many smaller companies, that doesn't happen. Some it does, some it doesn't. Some different companies have different perks no matter where they are. So for example, at my job, my big thing is I get a lot of time off. That's what I value. Some people might hate that. If I wanted to be in the spotlight and I was like, oh, I'm being deprived of being on stage for 3 months a year, it'd be terrible. But I don't want to be on stage any month out of the year, so it's great. But yeah, I know people who have worked in traditional circuses where they had to carry suitcases filled with like 70 pounds worth of cabling and rigging equipment and things like that. Every time you get into a new venue, you need to kind of go through things with a new lighting designer. Your costume you probably had to pay for yourself. You have to wash it, you have to maintain it, all these things. And with Cirque, you don't have to deal with any of that. It's kind of a very cushy
You
situation.
kind of shut your brain off and go to work.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, for lack of a better description. But yeah, clearly it's become more corporate as the years have gone by, for better and for worse. It's allowed them to expand and proliferate a lot, but maybe at the expense of other factors. It does seem like show creations are taking less and less time, and I believe that reflects in the products that get turned out. Like, I was at Run. I don't think anyone misses that show. It was...
I didn't even get to see it.
Well, I've got the whole video on a hard drive if you want to see it sometime. It was a fun show, but like, it just was put together so very quickly. And here's one thing I will say. It seemed like it was geared towards 12-year-old boys, and the problem is 12-year-old boys are not
buying tickets.
Yes, exactly. There were focus groups of like teenagers and like tweens who would watch the show and then be kind of surveyed afterwards about their opinion on it. But as you say, they're not the people buying tickets. They're not the people who choose to go to Las Vegas in the first place. So this isn't your target demographic. Like,
yeah,
I think Spiegelworld in particular do an excellent job of catering to tourists in Las Vegas, where it's like, okay, people are here for something kind of party-ish, something kind of raunchy. There's going to be comedy. There's going to be cool acrobatic stuff. There might be some sexy stuff. Like, they've really kind of nailed the person who comes to Vegas and goes and sees a show on the
Definitely.
Strip. So I'm curious to see what's going to happen with Formula One being around more, and with more of these sporting events and major kind of concerts and things. Like, I know you did a gig at Allegiant Stadium where there was Trampwall and teeterboard provided by you. It was for a dog food show, I believe. Something along those lines.
Yeah, pharmaceuticals for dogs and stuff.
Like, that's so cool. And the fact that it's getting circus things in something so niche and yet so massive of a venue. I want to see more of that. Yeah,
we have another really big one coming up too.
Nice.
Can't talk about it yet, but
cool.
Anyways, cool. Thanks. I could talk to you for days about this stuff. I definitely want to have you on again some point and dive more into your Elon Musk brain of acrobatics, and maybe have someone else on with you too.
Yeah, let's do it.
Cool. All right. Everyone can find you at Scott McDonald on Instagram and YouTube.
Scott A. McDonald.
Scott A. McDonald.
Imposter Scott McDonald had that tag before me. So yeah, Scott A. McDonald on Instagram. Scott McDonald Acrobat, I think, on YouTube. But if you just search Scott McDonald tutorial, circus, Trampwall, something like that, it'll pop up.
Cool. Thanks for coming on, dude.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Everybody, make sure you follow Scott and subscribe. We'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye, everyone.
Peace.
That concludes this episode of the Off Axis Podcast. If you guys found value in this, please consider sharing with your friends. Also, subscribe, and we'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye-bye, everyone.